We're back with another mock draft. YouTube, what's going on? This time, it isn't my mock draft. It's the consensus mock draft. We're going to look at NFL mock draft database and see what the community is saying. Who's going to be the pick? Let's get to it. All right. So this is NFL mock draft database. It shows, pick player, pick popularity to the right. And we're just going to get to it. We're going to go through the first round, look at all 32. When we get to your team, let me know what you guys think. I think this will be fun to kind of mock the mock, seeing as y'all love to mock mine. I'm going to look at what the communities are saying, and we're just going to have a little fun with this. So pick one, it almost seems like it's a foregone conclusion that it's Cam Ward at this point. We're beginning to hear the rumor mill really start to fire up the Cam Ward to Tennessee hype, and it's not surprising. They worked on getting some offensive linemen. They worked on getting some different pieces there. They've got some receivers. They've got some different pieces built around, and they just need that signal caller. And if you don't believe in Will Levis, this is the time to go get a quarterback. At pick one, this may be the highest you pick for the foreseeable future, unless you make the wrong pick, obviously. So Ward here makes a lot of sense. Big arm, obviously. Anybody who watched Pro Day, you got to see him put that on display. He's got a cannon. He can move around and move that pocket around. I think he has a lot of the intangibles that a team would want as their franchise quarterback. Plus, I think the thing that we continue to overlook is the amount of playing time this guy's had at various levels throughout college, and he's played well. I think this guy's got everything that you're looking for in your franchise quarterback, and if they take him at one, I think it's smart. And I was even watching McAfee today, and Dan, they were talking about Daniel Jeremiah's mock with Daniel Jeremiah, and he's even mentioning that's what he's hearing. So I think it makes sense to pick one. At pick two, Cleveland could look for their quarterback in the future as well, but I don't really think there is that next sure thing. So why not take the best edge rusher in this class? I think you could either see Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. I think those are kind of the two names that you're seeing a lot of folks take it to for Cleveland. I would go edge rusher just because you can't have enough elite edge rushers, and putting Carter on the other side of Myles Garrett is just a cheat code at this point. I think at that point, then you pick your poison as to who you double team, and you're going to lose out to the other one. Pick three, the New York Giants. This one, I am not on the Shedeur bandwagon to the same. I think he's not a first round pick. If I'm leaning into the quarterbacks at three, I'm probably looking a different direction. But I also don't think there's another quarterback that's worthy of top five consideration. I like Shedeur Sanders in terms of, I think he's got some of the character traits, some of the things you can't necessarily teach intangibles wise. But it's proven that his arm is not amazing. But I like the toughness of the kid. I think he took a lot of beating at Colorado and even at Jackson State. I think he dealt with a lot of pressure, and I think he handled it well in terms of, being able to handle a lot of extra rushers getting at him. But I don't think that New York, I don't think this makes them exponentially better, just because they could look in various other directions and I think do better continuing to build around, Jameis or somebody else and look at quarterback next year, because they could potentially pick in the top five again next year. But I'd rather go for an elite player in the top five. So, give me Graham, give me Hunter, give me any of the other elite players at the top of this class. I'm probably not looking quarterback if I'm the Giants, but they think that there. What do you think? For the Patriots, Travis Hunter makes sense. I think he could play either way. They have him listed here as a corner. I think if New England takes him, I think they would certainly need to try him at wide receiver, because I think he's a better receiver than he is a corner, probably. But he could be a guy that plays both ways. Why not see what happens there? They have Christian Gonzalez. They have some DBs that we like in this defense, but having Hunter as a chess piece out on the field on either side, offense or defense, I think could be really fun for a New England offense or a New England team that's trying to kind of find their identity under a new head coach. So Hunter makes a lot of sense there. I would be perfectly fine if I was New England with that pick. Up at five, Jacksonville. Mason Graham makes a lot of sense for them. I think they need some interior help. I think they need to get an elite piece there. And he's probably the second to last elite player in this class. I think Jalen Walker's one of those guys that I would consider, but it's hard to take him in the top five. But Jalen Walker is just an amazing talent. I think he's probably the last of the guys that I think are in that top tier of players in this class. Pick six, the Raiders. I mean, obviously they went and got their quarterback in Geno. So, do you take running back here? I mean, this is the highest we've seen a running back in a while, but Ashton Genty is at a different level. I mean, he's kind of one, and there's a bit of a tier between him, right? Marion Hampton looks to be number two. Hampton, not Hampton. Hampton looks to be number two. It just depends on what kind of running back you're looking for. I don't think Hampton goes early first. So if the Raiders do go with a running back in the top 10, it's got to be Genty. So I don't love that for them. I would love to see them look on the defensive side or potentially offensive linemen. I think running back you can wait on, especially as deep as this running back class is, but so be it. You grab the best running back and sure, why not? 7, Armin Membo. I think, the Jets could go offensive line or defensive line, and I wouldn't be surprised. If this is their top tackle, he's not my top tackle. I mean, it's still Will Campbell for me. I like Membo a lot, but it's not Membo, it's Campbell for me. So it just depends on, which tackle fits your skill set or which tackle fits your scheme. I don't think that that's necessarily my favorite pick for them there. I would love to see them, look a different direction if they're looking offensive tackle, but if that's their guy, if he fits what they're trying to do, so be it. Pick 8, Jalen Walker, edge, Georgia. I think they could go a couple directions. I think you could see them go offensive line. I think you could see them go wide out. I mean, if they thought Ted McMillan was the top guy or one of those top level wide receivers, I could see them take a wide receiver here. Defense needs help, though. I think they do need edge rushers. I think they need probably 2 at least. It wouldn't surprise me if they grabbed a couple in this draft. Wouldn't mind seeing them take a guy like Jalen Walker because you can do a couple things with him. You can have him be an edge rusher and just purely rush a quarterback, or he can drop him back, and let him play linebacker, let him drop back in coverage. So, pick 9, we've got New Orleans Saints and Ted McMillan. I do not like that pick for them. I know they can use help in a lot of positions in a lot of ways. But I would look defense if I was this team. It looks like they're trying to run it back with what they've got for some reason and not blow it up. So why would you do this? I think you go defense. You need to get a DB. You need to get some help for that defense. So why not go Will Johnson? Why not go, an elite player on the defensive side of the ball? Pick 10, Will Campbell, offensive tackle LSU. I mean, that would be a steal, I think, for the Bears. I think they could use a player like that. And, Ben Johnson's going to be looking for his Penei Sewell style player. So you get that with Will Campbell, very athletic, very physical, very smart player. I think that would be, he's a tone setter on the offensive line. I could also see them go secondary as well. Will Johnson has not been drafted yet, and he is a high-end player. I think he's a top 10 player on my board when I look at it. So, it's crazy to me that he's still not been taken yet. Pick 11. This one was a head scratcher when I went through here. Obviously, you can see the popularity with these next few picks is super low, which means that people probably are not super set in stone as to what player a team is going to be looking to draft at this point. If I'm San Francisco, I mean, they need offensive line help. They need defensive line. They need some reinforcements there. They could use some secondary help, why Barron makes sense for them, but not at 11. I would be looking for him in the second round. Here I would be looking at, offensive line, defensive line. You got to get those trenches shored up, especially if you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy soon. Pick 12, Dallas Cowboys, head scratcher, makes a lot of sense. Cowboys always do something that makes you go, what? I mean, Matthew Golden's not a bad receiver, and it's certainly, if they think that they can run it back with what they've got, I think they need, like San Francisco, kind of like this group of teams here from 11 to 13, offensive line, defensive line. It would not surprise me if all 3 of these teams went with trench help, and I think they could use it. 13, Miami Dolphins, Calvin Banks from Texas. I think that makes a lot of sense for them. They need offensive line help, need defensive line help. If that's your top tackle or top offensive lineman on the board, so be it. I don't believe he would be my top offensive lineman at this point right here, but I think he's right up there. So if that fits what their system is looking for, sure. Big 14, Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State. I mean, you need to get Daniel Jones a tight end to throw to, right? I kid. Quarterback could be on the table for this team. I I don't want to say it, it's kind of tongue in cheek. I'm an Anthony Richardson guy. I know that he's not done very well in terms of his completion percentage in college or in the NFL so far, but you took a kid that was very raw, but had a skill set that could change the game if you can help get the other stuff right, get his mechanics down, get the mental side of it down, get that completion percentage up. I know you need at least 61+% passer rating or completion percentage to be a high level quarterback in the NFL. So I know he's a ways away from that, but I think you need to surround him with pieces, and you need to keep working on defensive help. Tight end here I don't have a problem with it. I don't think they have an elite tight end on the roster. I think they have guys, right? They have solid depth with startable upside, but I don't think they have that elite player. So grabbing Tyler Warren here makes a lot of sense. I hope it's for Anthony Richardson. I hope he can beat out Danny Dimes in preseason and in camp. But it could go either way, which is terrifying. If Daniel Jones is your starting quarterback, I don't think, as the Colts, I don't think you're super excited about that. Pick 15, Atlanta Falcons, Mike Green, edge from Marshall. I mean, I've seen him mocked anywhere from kind of 10 on, and it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, elite skill set, did it at a high level, or played at a very high level at Marshall, kind of took over. And many times you hear people say, if you're looking at smaller school guys, Mac and things like that, you want to see just domination. Well, you saw that with Green. You saw it when he got to, the off season here, as we've been getting into draft season. I'm okay with Atlanta taking an edge rusher that has some really intriguing skills. I think their offense is fairly set in terms of the trenches. I think they're going to have to start refilling there soon because they got some guys that are getting older, but this is a perfect spot to grab a really nice edge rusher that I think can help bolster that defense, which is something you're going to need. You're going to need to get after the quarterback, especially in the NFC South. You got some mobile quarterbacks down there in terms of Baker Mayfield. I think he's kind of at the top of that South division, and you need to figure out ways to get him off there. So grab an edge rusher, get the quarterback, lock it up. 16, Arizona Cardinals, Michael Williams, edge, Georgia. Another team, I mean, here again, the next three picks should be trench on either side. Edge rushers, offensive linemen. I'm perfectly fine with kind of this cluster of players. Williams, Pierce are really nice edge rushers. I like both of them as first-round picks. I know Pierce has been a guy that's kind of slid down the board, but the thing that's surprising for me, and I'm okay with Arizona taking him here. The thing that's more surprising for me is Cincinnati. We need interior. We need a defensive tackle in this. We need a tone-setting defensive tackle. Kenneth Grant, would be great in this spot because we haven't talked about him yet. I don't know why. And don't get me wrong, you can't have enough edge rushers. I get it. So taking edge rusher here, I'm not going to argue it, albeit we're looking at the popularity. It's not so hot. I would rather a DT here. I know it's a little early for some of these DTs, at least from what we're seeing in a lot of the mock drafts. If you're Cincinnati, I mean, I think that's the next big thing. And then you got to get Hendrickson back in the building. Like, you got to lock that up and stop messing around there. Tyler Booker at 18 to Seattle makes sense. I mean, they need some help on the interior. Grab the best interior offensive lineman in the draft. He's one of my top offensive linemen in the draft. I think he's just a really solid player, and he's, a guy you can kind of set and forget in terms of put him in your starting lineup from day one and just let him cook. I mean, he's a really good, physical, athletic offensive lineman. Quarterback could also be something that they need, depending on how you feel about Darnold, but that's a conversation for a later draft pick. I think at this spot, if you can grab a really high end piece that you can start from day one and let him be in your starting lineup, I mean, makes a lot of sense. Pick 19, Tampa Bay, Jihad Campbell, linebacker, Alabama. Campbell's a guy that's kind of been all over the place in terms of mock drafts. From day one, I think he, in my mind, he was a first round type pick. So anywhere, from teens and 20s, that's fine. Tampa Bay is a team that's going to need defensive reinforcements. Guys are aging, especially along the defensive line and the linebackers. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if you saw him take a defensive lineman, a linebacker, or a secondary piece, depending on how the board falls. So I think defense is the first round selection somewhere on the defense. So Campbell here makes a lot of sense. Very athletic, very smart, played at a high level at Alabama. I mean, it doesn't seem crazy to me that they would take him. Pick 20, Omarion Hampton going to Denver Broncos. I think that moving on from Javonte Williams, I think they need that elite number one running back. I don't necessarily think it's on the roster right now, so I think you're going to see them go after it. The interesting thing to me is will they be willing to take a running back that high, or do they wait till the second round? Because they're picking at 20, I think they're probably going to want to grab a running back and not wait till the second round, because if they love Hampton, if they love one of those kind of top 2-3 running backs, whether it's the group from Ohio State and Judkins and Henderson or Hampton, whichever their guy is, they're probably going to need to take him here, because I don't know that they would be able to come back around to get him in the second round. We'll see. 21, Jackson Dart. So Jackson Dart is the dark horse to slide into the first round. Pittsburgh needs to figure something out. I mean, I don't know that they're going to be able to, even if they do find a way to sign, Aaron Rodgers. I don't love their quarterback situation. They really need to get this thing figured out. Stop messing around. They really should have kept, in my mind, I would have kept Justin Fields to see if you can continue to develop him. But clearly, if they let him leave, they don't think they can work with him. So you need to get your guy of the future. Your team is set enough that they can take a chance on a quarterback here. I also wouldn't be surprised if they go defensive side of the ball, grab another edge rusher. If one of those high-end edge rushers is still around, maybe they consider him here. But, quarterback, I mean, if I'm them, I'm okay with them taking a shot on him. But I don't love the pick for him. I would love to see them wait until the second round to go after quarterback, but that's just me. Pick 22, I mean, Colston Loveland to the Chargers makes a lot of sense. Obviously Jim Harbaugh gets his college tight end, and Loveland is an elite tight end, but because Warren's here, they're kind of in a tier by themselves together, and then everyone's a close second. Or a distant second. My apologies. Loveland to the Chargers makes a lot of sense. This offense played very well, but I think they really needed an elite tight end to really put them over the top, especially once they got to the playoffs. I could see them go probably a couple directions. I could see them go tight end, and then I could see them go defense. I would love to see them get an edge rusher and let Bosa go. I wouldn't mind seeing them, get probably edge rusher or linebacker early, or tight end. So any one of those three positions works for me. 23, Emeka Egbuka to Green Bay. I mean, they've been trying to find their wide receiver one for a long time. Clearly, nobody loves this as popularity wise. I don't know that they go wide receiver here. I think they look a different direction. With some of the players, if we're basing the board based on who's available after him, I would probably look at almost any of these guys after. So for me, I'm not jumping on a wide receiver here. If I'm Green Bay, I'm looking a different direction, but that clearly nobody's really sure on Green Bay. So you let me know in the comments, who are you taking in the first round, Packers? What's your play here? You going defensive line, you going secondary help. We know that they've been talking about moving on from Jair Alexander, so cornerback could certainly be in play, and there's plenty of corners that are in consideration for late first round. That might be a better consideration. I know I mocked early on in the draft season. I mocked Benjamin Morrison to him way back when. So I thought corner. 24, Malachi Stark, safety, Georgia to the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, I mean, with a team that made it to the playoffs, that is pretty well set in a lot of positions, I think you can take a swing and just go get kind of your favorite secondary piece, and it wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't mind seeing them go after, edge rusher. I wouldn't mind seeing them get some reinforcements on the offensive line. I think, they could look in a few different directions. I don't think that they have to target offensive players early in this draft class in terms of anything outside of offensive line. I would love to see them get some pieces there, but I think secondary in the late first, I think makes a lot of sense for them, safety or corner. So I'm fine with Malachi Starks. He's an elite player, a really good safety. We haven't seen safeties go in the first round a lot lately in the last few years. So if one goes, I mean, Starks is probably one of the best bets to be that guy that goes. He's a really good player. 25, Houston Texans, Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, Ohio State. they need offensive line help. We got to protect CJ Stroud. You got to give him time to diagnose, to get the ball delivered, give him time to distribute the ball. I think you need to get whoever your favorite offensive lineman is that's available. Josh Simmons and Donovan Jackson are both kind of in my top 10 offensive linemen. If you watched our short that I posted, those are all my offensive linemen, so that were my top 10. So it makes a lot of sense. I'm perfectly fine with Josh Simmons here. I think Houston needs to grab their favorite offensive lineman and roll. 26, LA Rams, Maxwell Hairston, cornerback from Kentucky. Sure. I mean, they need secondary help. I don't think that their secondary is necessarily set. I think they could add another piece there. They focused a lot on the defense last year in the draft. They got some really good edge rushers and linemen to help build that defense. So it would not surprise me there. They've got the receiver set. They've got the running backs, maybe an offensive lineman, add another piece to that. I think there's a lot of directions you can go, but I think it's probably defensive side of the ball in round one. So Hairston makes a lot of sense and a really good player. Fast, athletic, smart, works for me. But again, you're seeing late in the first round, a lot of this popularity is not high. So that means there's not necessarily really strong consensus from the community. 27, Donovan Jackson, interior offensive lineman, Ohio State, to the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, I think they need to get interior offensive line help, so this would make sense. I don't know that they look. I think they look offensive line, or I think they look probably in the defensive line. So trench either way. It would not surprise me if they went with a player like him. With some of these other guys on the board still, like Connerly and even a Walter Nolan, it wouldn't surprise me if they went a different direction as well, just because there is some other players that I think I value a little higher on my board. But Baltimore picking at 27, if you take an interior offensive lineman and this is your guy, he makes a lot of sense. He's a very good offensive lineman. He's strong, powerful, quick. I think he would really be a nice starter from day one for this team. So 28, Nick Scorton, edge rusher, Texas A&M to my Detroit Lions. Absolutely love that pick. I would love an edge rusher. So Scorton is a guy that I think for some reason has been sliding down. I don't necessarily see any reason why teams shouldn't be considering him as a mid first round type talent. But let him fall to Detroit. We need edge rusher help. I'm not going to say that. I've enjoyed what they did in the offseason with free agency. I think they needed a corner to replace Carlton Davis because we weren't going to be able to afford Carlton Davis. Getting Reed at a really great price makes a lot of sense, but they need edge help. They need some reinforcements there. We've got some players, but you need an elite player across from Aiden Hutchinson. We just don't have that guy that you can start and set it and forget it. I think you need a guy like Nick Scorton. You need somebody that's got that ability to kind of not necessarily make teams have to double team you, but make teams consider, hey, which player are we double teaming? Obviously, it's going to be Hutch because he's the best in the league in terms of edge rusher. I love Max Crosby, but Hutchinson, he was just on another level until he got hurt. Now, it'll be interesting to see how he comes back from injury, but I love this pick here. I think edge rusher is going to be in play for Detroit this late in the draft. And if you can get a player like that, I think it makes a lot of sense. On the clock at pick 29, Washington Commanders. Don't get me wrong. Edge rusher makes a lot of sense for this team, but I really think secondary is going to be the direction. I would love to see Nick Emanwari from South Carolina slide into the first round. I think he makes a lot of sense for Washington and how their defense plays. I would love to see a corner. I mean, edge rusher, don't get me wrong. You never have enough edge rushers, especially high-end edge rushers. So it could be in play. I just don't know that I love that pick there. What do you guys think? Pick 30. I mean, this is the steal of the draft. If Kenneth Grant really does fall to Buffalo, it makes a lot of sense for Buffalo to go after him and grab him. I mean, he's a force to reckon with. I mean, he can get after the quarterback. He can, he really can allow, all those other defensive linemen, whether it's Oliver or Rousseau. I mean, you really have to kind of focus on Grant and allow some of these other guys to then have one-on-one matchups. I mean, that would be huge for Buffalo. I think Grant is a piece that would be an amazing piece for Buffalo. I mean, when I saw this as I was getting ready for this video, and it kind of had my jaw drop a little bit. Like the popularity, I'm surprised it isn't higher. If Grant really falls this far and Buffalo can get him, I'd be all over it. Pick 31, Kansas City Chiefs, Josh Connerly Jr., offensive tackle, Oregon. If they can land an high-end offensive lineman like this late, I mean, how do you not? I think they do need to start considering defensive side of the ball. They got some aging players on that line as well. Walter Nolan, I think, could certainly be a piece that's in play. And there's a couple other defensive linemen that I could see in play at 31. And if somebody wants to come back into the back of the first round, if a quarterback slides, like I would think some of these quarterbacks would slide, maybe somebody comes up to get, Dart, Shedeur, if they really do fall that far. These last few picks would not surprise you if they traded out of the first round, if somebody wanted to come up and get somebody. I don't think Detroit does. If an edge rusher's there, I think they jump all over that. And then rounding this out, the champs, Philadelphia Eagles, they're going to need to refill in some of these positions. They lost some guys, Sweat. They've lost plenty of players in free agency that got their ring and went to get their bag. And I don't blame some of these guys. But Walter Nolan makes a lot of sense. A very athletic defensive lineman that they could put in a variety of roles. Sure. I mean, I could see them go secondary. They moved on from some DBs. I would not be surprised if they looked at, probably not necessarily safety. I don't think that's as high on the list, but I think defensive line or corner would be really kind of their top two options here to go after. But you guys let me know in the comments. What do you think about this first round mock draft? As always, thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking and subscribing. We got another mock draft coming this week. We'll see you later.